Go ahead.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kwame once again, Angry African. Last week, last week we talked about child support. I had a lot of questions about child support because I didn't understand. It looked like somebody was benefiting, a group of people were benefiting, and I thought it wasn't in the best interest of the kid when it happens, like when with the concept of child support. So last week we talked about it extensively.
I
I
have
had a
my
question, yeah.
perspective on it.
And Anthony also talked a lot about it, but in my opinion, I was like, "Well, this guy's are full of shit." I wanted to listen to a female so that you can hear something from you guys because I didn't want it to be one-sided. That's why, and I'm glad that everybody's on board so that we talk about it in the whole scheme of things, so that I can hear from everybody, so that we know how not how to beat the system, but how to make sure it works in our favor or in the child's favor, because it shouldn't be for anybody's favor except the kid, you know. So,
Well, and that's where things kind of unsettled. They don't sit well with me because I don't know the way I was brought up, the way my mom kind of like put it into me because I saw her struggle with me and my sister. It was kind of like even if you and your ex significant other don't work out, me being a man should recognize and understand that she's going to need help raising my kids. Period. If she has a kid, she's going to need help raising my kids, and I shouldn't necessarily be mad about child support. I should almost want to help her raise my kids. Those are my kids. And this is a woman that I chose to, whether we got different stories of how it happened or not, I chose to stay in that relationship with my kids. And I would hate to hate my ex to the point to where I don't want to pay child support, even though it hurts my kids, it's hurting her too. And you get that little level of satisfaction.
right.
The system is corrupted on the legal side. It's messed up on the moral side when it comes to two individual parties. On the legal side, it's been abused on both the male's behalf and on the female's behalf on today's day and age. And it's like for me, like I said the last time we talked about it, it took a female judge to come in and put a stop to my ex's nonsense. The male judges were more on her side because how many cases throughout their careers, even though I think they had a little racial issue, but how many cases throughout their career where they were seeing dirtbag guys doing what they were doing, stepping out, not wanting to pay or disappearing. So they were just ensuring even the good, bad, and the ugly, whatever, still had to pay something, and they were sticking it all the way to them for those worst people decisions. Like, we suffer the consequences of other people's actions sometimes.
Yeah, you're right.
But go ahead, Latoya. What's your perspective on child support?
My perspective on child support is that the legal system in general, in my both personal and professional opinion, is that it's a last resort system. If I could sit down with you as the father of my children and have a conversation with you and come up with a concrete agreement that is basically signed, sealed, notarized, and we agree to follow that, that's what we should do. I would never advocate for somebody to just run straight to child support. If me and you were to separate tomorrow, I wouldn't say, well, I'm going to child support now because that's what I should do. Because that just it jumps really the protocol, because it's first we have a conversation, see if we can figure it out. If we can't have that conversation, we go through mediation. And then if we can't figure it out in mediation, then we go the next route. It should never be just such a spur of the moment, back of the hand decision, like, oh, I'm just going to go to child support. That's not what I would advise personally or as a professional. When it comes to the purpose of child support, it's exactly what it is. It's child support. It's supporting that child. Of course, that means a lot of different things, especially when it comes to how that child is being provided for, what type of schools they go to, do they have special needs or what have you. There's so many factors that go into what it takes to actually support a child. Of course, we have our children need somewhere to live. They need to be safe. They need to be fed. They need to be clothed. That's the most basic sense of supporting a child. But then, of course, there are the little things that go into that. Like if we break down school uniform, school supplies, lunch, all of that. There's so many things that fall under that umbrella of schooling. If that child needs tutoring, if that, whatever have you, field trips, so many different things come up. And when parents are separated, it's kind of hard to identify if it's a joint responsibility or separate responsibility. However, if it's the child and you have that conversation beforehand and you identify who's going to take care of what, that's different. But when it comes to raising children separately, the water just gets so murky because there's so many different, like, seemingly little things that can become big issues. So honestly, I just feel like we should have that conversation first. If we can't have it, mediation, and then after mediation, then you take the next step. You don't just jump straight into, oh, well, we have to go in front of a judge and I need to seek a certain amount because you're not doing what I think you should do. You have to give a person a chance to see what they're going to do before you say what they're going to do or not going to do. That's not your decision to make. And that's speaking for the person on the receiving end of getting the child support.
I can dig that. I think, like, going back to what you're saying, the way it's supposed to work, and I completely agree that the parents should have a conversation. They should be able to do that. Where I think it falls off is in more cases than none, whichever parent goes to court and file first for the separation, for their divorce, when they're filling out that packet, they're asked right off a rip what they make, what they're seeking, why they're seeking it, like, and all this stuff. When it comes into the very, very murky waters, or the little nuances, the details of, like you said, the school uniforms and the school supplies, because realistically, at least out here, that stuff isn't covered under child support. Child support out here is, they claim, is for housing or transportation to and from school, whatever like that. And it's kind of like, so when I'm getting hit with such and such wants to play football this year, and I'm like, and well, you need to pay half of this or pay this so they could do this football. And I'm saying, like, no, I pay my child support. Like, I'm Gucci. Like, you know, all of that's covered in there, as it should be, because it should be. And where I think another thing on the legal side that is messed up is child support should be half of what it takes to raise that child in that household. It shouldn't be the whole thing. So for me, I got one buddy who has 2 kids, and fortunately enough, his ex is being reasonable and taking them off of child support. But I asked him out of curiosity, hey, what's your child support? You know, you got 2 kids, I got 2 kids. What's the deal? He was like, oh, my child support is $500 a month. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, mine is $500 a month. Well, how much is yours? I'm like, well, mine used to be $2,400 a month. Now it's $1,200 a month. And I thought I had to come up. Like what the hell? And I'm like, all right, you know, maybe the age difference plays a part, right? And I'm like, well, no, because my kids are older, so technically they should be cheaper because they're more self-sufficient. And his kids are younger, and I'm like, so you always got sitters, you know, daycares after school, so on and so forth. And he said, well, I don't really know. And I'm like, you know what it comes down to is that stupid form that you fill out on whoever files first, what you claim you make. Because here's the thing, when you get somebody served, they got to put all of like you serving me, I got to put all my information and attach my tax documents with it. You initially filing, you just writing down what it is you do. You're not going to get questioned until you step in that courtroom. Mediation is messed up because while you're going to mediation to find an equal ground, whether you can or can't do it solo dolo, you still got to, you still got to go before the judge to solidify what you even agreed to in mediation. And even then, every single time, he look at her in her eyes and say, are you sure you agree with all these things? Is there anything else that you want to say? He ain't gonna ask your ass. Hell no. He ain't asking you. He asking her. And even if the shoe's on the other foot and you file first, he's still asking her, is this what you sure you agree to? Case after case after case after case. And it's been abused on both parties, because on the same side is when it comes to public assistance. Public assistance, you would get your shit garnished if you wasn't paying your child support and your ex filed for public assistance. And on the flip side of that, even if you do pay your child support according to the court order, according to your agreement, whatever like that, when she filed for public, at some point before them kids turn 18, you go get a letter in the mail asking if you was paying child support and what proof you got that you was paying, because the state want their money back. They want their money back for helping her with them kids. And now this ain't no woman bashing thing. On the flip side, when it comes to men, is the few men that I do know that has full custody of their kids, when I'm a to say, and again, I'm not trying to say it's woman bashing, but they could be as late as the hell they want on their child support. They could be as behind as the hell they want. They are not going to get hit with contempt of court, at least in my experiences from what I've witnessed. And when they do, I told somebody the other day, sidebar, I told somebody the other day that, believe it or not, I honestly am starting to feel like men love harder than women in some ways. Because when it comes to putting people in jail, a woman to throw her man, she hate him enough, throw him in jail 10 times over. But a man does not want to see his ex go to jail, even if he hate this girl. He don't want to see her to go to jail in front of them kids because the love for the kids. He loves them kids that much, no matter how scorned he is. But these courts don't care about men, especially for what we are doing right now, men of color. They don't care because the shoe is always passed to the next dude is he a shitbag, so he must be a shitbag. He a shitbag, so he must be a shitbag. Not the ones that's going to work, doing what they do. Like I was telling, I don't know if you watched the episode last week, Latoya, but I was talking about when I was going through court, all the men that were leaving crying because they were going on just wanting more time with their kids. It wasn't about the money. They wanted more time. And that wasn't being met in the family court system in California. And that's a problem because we talking about when you to the point to where you don't care that you can't afford to feed yourself. Because I was there. When you can't afford to feed you just want to see your kids, but the courts don't care. This ain't about the kids. This ain't about the family. This is about one person get one over on the other person. Period. And a lot of states share, like Washington State shares California's family court system, as you would say it. Illinois does. There's a lot of pro-women states. And I'm not looking for pro-men states. I'm looking for equality states. Those that actually give a shit about what's going on within the household. Because that's
not to cut you off. The issue is the history of the child support system anyway. When we start talking about child support, welfare, public assistance, that system wasn't made to benefit the Black family unit anyway. Correct. Any system that tells you can't have a father in the house in order for me to help you wasn't made to benefit me. Yep. Because we all know, and some people agree, some people disagree, but from what I know, children benefit from having a complete family unit. Regardless of what that makeup is, they benefit from having a complete and whole family unit.
Even if it's dysfunctional. Yep.
So with that being said, to say, oh, you can't have a man in the house and you have to prove it, and I'm going to look through your drawers and I'm going to look through your closets to see if I see any male shoes or clothes or whatnot. And then I'm going to not help you if I do see that, but then I'm going to help you more if I don't see it. That's a flawed system in and of itself.
Oh, I'll throw one in there too. I'll throw one in there too. When you are in a stable relationship and then your lady or your family, y'all decide that y'all need WIC, which is women and children. If for those that don't know, when you go in there and then you hear the person helping you ask, like low key, try to be silent and say, or ask another person for the days you in there getting the coupons for your family, ask some other woman, so has he ever abused you? Are you sure he pays half of his support? Are you sure he does it? Like you egging these people on for some coupons. The system is messed up.
It's an extremely flawed system. It's an extremely flawed system. And I think that mindset still hasn't been eradicated when it comes to the court system. So when you are a Black male and you're going in, it's this dark cloud over you, whether you are doing your share, whether you're not doing your share, that doesn't matter. Because the court already has predetermined how they're going to proceed with your case and what they're going to do. So with that being said, when we talk about equality, women favoring states, that's something that I foresee continuing for quite some time because there has not been a real call to action to change that. Yes, you have men who are speaking out and men who are being vocal about how unfair and unethical it is, but that's honestly the societal norm. So it would take overall like a total legislation overhaul to undo that. And where that gets complicated is, of course, everything is state by state, because there is no real national legislation. So
it's happening. So one thing that I had spoke about last week was there's a thing that if nobody's ever found it or whatever, looked it up, go on Facebook, look at it. It's called a Father's Right movement. And I used to actually be like one of the running the Southern California region of the Father's Right movement. And it's studying the family laws within the father's rights and what you can and can't do. And you believe it or not, the majority of the people that help the most are the women. That and it's kind of odd because not only are they the women, but they're not even the step parents or the stepmom of the children that they're fighting for. They're the actual moms that would typically be in that position trying to go after this dad. And it gets into deep issues, which obviously it'll be a 5-hour conversation if we went into it. But stuff like the stimulus checks. If you were behind on your child support, you weren't getting a stimulus check. But think about it. For those fathers that were laid off or not able to go to work, they didn't fall behind because they wanted to. Maybe they were almost there to catch up. Or maybe they fell behind because their hours got cut because of COVID. Like whatever the case may be. But they're behind. And they're not getting a stimulus check. Well, they still need help too. How they supposed to eat? Or the fact that the state can suspend your driver's license because you're behind on your child support. Well, how you supposed to go to work if you can't drive? If maybe if you're a driver, that you're a professional driver, you are putting provisions in front of somebody trying to make do, and it makes it harder for those that are trying to do the right thing. Like we as fathers, Black fathers, do see the most messed up men out there because we're the ones trying to A, teach our sons not to be like these men, B, trying to teach our daughters how to identify these men to stay away from these men, because everybody quick to find some love when they hit 16 years old, and then it's like, okay, you with this baby, it's like, other than my kids, I don't know who in their household until they get, you ain't moving in with me if you get knocked up. This shit ain't happening. That's called your mama's problem. Because look, my child support is my child support. That ain't your goddamn baby child support. But no, the system is when it comes to men. Go ahead, Rich. Go ahead.
I kind of want to pedal back to see what George's original question was.
Oh, your original from the day when you were talking about two people, one wanting to have a baby, not having a baby, and then are you liable for the child support? Okay, I remember. George's dumbass question was if two people end up having a kid, whether it's by adoption or...
Hold up. This is what it was. If two people, right, let's say you and your girlfriend, you don't want a baby, but your girlfriend wants to adopt a baby, right? And you guys go ahead and adopt the baby, and you guys get married. Now your girlfriend wants, you guys get divorced. Now your girlfriend wants child support for the baby that maybe initially you did not really agree on having because you didn't want a baby yet. Like it was something that you didn't even think about it, right? So she brought it up. So the base of the question was, okay, why should I pay for child support if initially it wasn't my idea? It wasn't, I didn't even sign up. I signed the dotted line, but you're the one that conceptualized the idea. And we went back and forth, and I was like, you're liable to pay child support because you signed on the line that you're the father. That's it. That's the bottom line.
That's the answer. You signed the paper.
So, and he was trying to give me like scenarios, and I kept saying, bro, in America, I wish it was Africa where you can pick it up and say, fuck this shit, I'm moving to another country, whatever. In America, unless you go into a different country, if you go to a different state, I'm pretty sure child support is going to find you, right? So far as you sign on that line. So, and that's where we went back and forth, like, okay, if you're dumb, I don't want to use the word dumbass, but if you sign on that line saying you're going to be the kid's pop, that's it. You are. That's it. Yeah, it's so funny, and that was the initial question, though. That's what it brought up the concept of child support, and I found a lot out. Like,
I also identified a dude in Illinois, and I hope to God one day he watches this because I feel so damn bad for him. he found his old lady, she stepped out and she had a baby by somebody else. And he never signed a birth certificate or anything, but he remained with her even through her infidelities. And after about how many ever years that they were together, they decided they weren't going to be together anymore. And they went through the court process. They still penalized him with child support because he was the male role model within that child's life for X amount of years. While I agree with the intent behind it, because you stayed in that road. You did that. And while I agree with that, on the same time, it's kind of like what I told him. It was like when you go to court, and it was a new shocker to this dude, except for to the day prior, that wasn't his baby. He was raising somebody else's baby. She knew the whole time. But because the court saw that he was in that child's life for X amount of years, even though he didn't know, like it was a Murray show, you were not the father, even though he didn't know, he was still held liable for that.
See, I think, all right.
Because here's the thing, you just said yourself, this is supposed to be about the kids.
Yeah.
So while it's messed up that he's in that position, the bigger picture is for the kid, that kid still needs support.
But it's so
you're supposed to look at that point, you got to love that kid.
So it's bigger than, so this is where it's bigger than the kid, right? It started with the kid, but it's bigger than the kid.
Morals.
Right? You go back to morals again. I get it. Like, listen, have you ever tried signing morals on the check? No, because it's bigger than the kid. Like, she stepped out. You never, like, I like the legality of things, right? If you sign on that line saying that you the father, bro, you are the father. You don't need anything else.
But when you don't sign on it,
if you don't sign on it, right? That's when if you get it's the same thing. If you get attached to something, it's hard to let it go. It's hard for you. That's what if you take somebody like, okay, you watch this kid grow from 3 years all the way to what, like let's say 7-year-old. He's more than you. He's part of you. Or she's part of you. Now that things happen between you, the mom, and she's they're going away and she's asking for money. Now here's the thing: if you ask me for money to help raise this kid, I will do it. If you tax me to help give you money to raise the kid, I will go heaven on earth not to do it.
Okay.
That is not, no, hold on. Everybody get what I'm saying, right? If you ask me, hey, I know I messed up. Well, I know I messed up. It was not your kid, but I didn't have the guts to tell you. So I can't do it without you. But I know you have to go because of this and this and that. But I will need help for the kid to raise the kid. I said, no more Black African. Maybe I'll do it. But if you try going the legal way,
but this is when I say morals every time because check me out.
I'm listening.
I say morals every time because the fact is you stayed in that child's life. It should be no question for you loving that kid and wanting to do to help provide for that kid, despite what that woman did. The kid didn't choose to be in this world. Now, with that being said,
so did I not choose to be with the kid?
Okay, but you said the bigger picture. The bigger picture is beyond you.
Yes.
So the bigger picture being a kid, this kid still need to be supported on the lines of it's the same equation as, again, not woman people. This is the best way to do it, so it's not woman bashing. People can go after people for child support without even a DNA test, period. Because they can go to court and claim this is the person that they conceived this child with. Bro, listen, and then make this man go to do a DNA test.
Medically, right? We all men, and I'll tell you, if somebody, no, seriously, if somebody shows up to my house and tell me, "Hey, Negro, you the father of my kid," right? Even though that kid looks like me, dark as I am, we still gonna do the DNA test. I don't care. Like, there's some things that we gotta face facts, right?
But now you gotta remember, a lot of men. This is the bad part on why men get penalized for other men's actions. A lot of men will run from the DNA test even though they know it's their kid because they don't want to. The moment it says green light, the moment it says go, now you held on that thing, you held on that dotted line without you even know you held on, you didn't sign it. Now you responsible for that child. So men go to run. So these courts have found different strategic ways to come and get what need to be done. It started out with the right principle of holding people accountable for their actions. And then it got corrupted. Because like I said, when we talked a couple weeks ago, it's the fact that what was that old it's a joke nowadays. Oh, you went out for a carton of milk and never came back home. Or a carton of smokes or something and never came back home. That was a thing.
Yeah.
That was a big thing, and you was leaving moms who back in that time period, women couldn't work like that. They weren't granted jobs like that. They weren't granted luxury like in the child care to go provide. Somebody had to pay for this stuff.
See, so here's the thing. Well, you guys can chime in, okay?
I'm gonna say this because I'm a little bit confused about the whole gist of everything, but from what I do know about child support and how it works here in Florida, and seeing how, from my perspective, it can be helpful. If you do child support and it's just you and the person, like George was saying, if I'm giving you child support directly and not being taxed to do it, that's one thing. Because when you add the legal system in that process, understand that that's actually putting that individual into a prison system. Just me growing up and my dad having to pay child support for me, which caused a lot of issues between my dad, my mom, and me. Here I am in my 30s now. The state of Florida has over $20,000 that my dad paid to the state that never got to my mom to take care of me. And now they won't release it to me because, and I'm a full adult, because the money was meant to take care of me while I was in school. And we were going to use it to pay my student loans off. But they said it cannot come to me. It can go to my mom. But when she went to go do it, they said, well, we're giving you food stamps for my niece, so we're going to use that money towards that. So that's what I mean. Like, and people understanding that once you take it to the state and you take it to the legal system, that creates a whole nother set of issues, which then create conflicts within the home, which then that child is ultimately being damaged because the child is in the midst of all of that. The child is witnessing mom not getting child support from dad. Dad saying, I'm paying your mom child support, but mom like, well, I'm not receiving nothing from you the whole entire time. The state is holding this money and said, you know what? And you still can't get it. So it's just kind of really looking at that and seeing before you even get involved with the legal system, before you put, that much effort into that, the first thought should come to mind with child support is what's going to be best for this child. Not even looking at the support part, but long term, is this going to be best for this child to be in the home with me or with you? Can we divide this up?
That's what sucks, bro, because it's kind of like almost similar to yours. The day my dad walked out of mine and my sister's life was the day that his child support went up a total of $50 for me and my sister. $50, and I mean, he was making over $100,000 a year. $50 for both of us, not separately, for the both of us. And it was kind of like, so he stepped out, he did that. So in cases like yours, shit like that is like, again, people are being punished for other people's actions. It wasn't until my mom passed, my dad showed up. Well, Georgia has I'm gonna call it a forgiveness plan, because you go to jail for all of 15 days and then you get custody of kids because this other parent's passed. And not only that, but then we get a letter when you hit 18 saying that if you want that child support that this person didn't pay, you can go legally sue this person in this state. So every state, so me personally, I've said why I don't like the government, especially the federal government is all corrupted, let alone local and state government. But child support should be under one umbrella, not different states' determinations. So when people do vote, it's what matches in across the board. Not every state saying, okay, this is fine, we can allow this and we can allow. No, like I said, WIC shouldn't be a state-to-state ran program and call it a national thing. Neither should food stamps. State ran, but government oversaw. No, this shit should all be under one umbrella because it affects these people. Like I said, those men that are trying to get back caught up. How you go get you? Look, that is one debt you will never catch up with unless you just luck up and win the lottery. It's catching up on your child support. When you fall behind, it's meant to keep you behind. Period. Because whether she says she wanted out of a card that's deposited on the 1st or the 15th from the state because she don't want to get a direct deposit from you, so you send it to the state, well, let the state have a lapse or a blackout period or whatever like that. You were deemed late. Not even from your actions. When the government shut down and my paycheck is stopped and I don't get paid for however long to I'm late. And it's beyond me. They want you to find this shit, do this shit, because the system, these state and local governments don't care about shit except for what they gotta pay out of pocket for these person, and then they go come and tax you 10 times.
So the whole setup, so the initial, it sounds like the initial reason or the mindset for child support made a lot of sense. It was working, so people figured a way to beat the system up.
To manipulate it, yes. In my opinion.
No, because like I remember I was telling a story last time about the girl that I knew that had
the kids in New York.
Two kids in New York, and she was getting, was it $7,500 or so? I don't know how she did it, but she was fully capable of work. This is how I started getting interested in this whole thing. So let's say child support, right? I'm supposed to pay child support to you because you need assistance in you need assistance, not to supplement your lifestyle, right? So you need assistance. Let's say you're making $2,000, and then I'll give you, let's say, extra $500, so that you make $2,500 for the kid, for whatever the kid needs, right? That $500 is not for you and you trying to paint your fingernails and you trying to do extra shit, right? But unfortunately, this is how it's tend to be. And then the funny thing is, like, it looks like nobody cares about that part. Like,
here's the thing: a lot of people would have a less issue with child support with those that were paying child support were able to write child support off, but you can't.
So okay, so
you're literally paying an income, or you're paying a person to raise your kid that you can't write off every year, but this person can write off every year. Not saying that they don't deserve it, not saying that at all, but they can't. You can't write anything off unless it's in the name of family support or you can write off spousal support, but you cannot write off child support. So in the case of me, $2,400 a month, that was just for the kids, bro. That wasn't even the alimony I had to pay.
Jesus
so
Christ.
When you're paying that money and you can't even write that off, that's when it becomes a problem. Because me, from day one, I ain't never had no problem paying my child support. I will go hungry for my kids, but not every man feels like me. Right. Because they're my babies. And I think that's within the black community. I think that's the first fucking step, is motherfuckers knowing that, look, even if you don't like this kid, love this kid, whatever, you accept responsibility for what you helped create. She didn't, well, for about 99.9, she didn't take advantage of you and make you have this child. You chose to go in that house, in that room, and do your duty just like she did.
It was the Hennessy, bro.
Yeah, a lot of people blame that fuck alcohol. I don't believe
all right, let me chime in, man. I've been quiet over here. I've been chilling. I've been trying to get my thoughts together. Let me say this. I'm gonna step on some toes, hurt some feelings, and I really don't care. Because I have a different viewpoint, and I got my own issues, so I'm gonna start there. The first, just going with what Kwame said earlier, there were two mistakes that person made in the beginning when you was talking about it. And the first mistake was that person didn't want a child, and then they agreed to something they didn't want. The second thing was they agreed to it, then they moved further to get married and then divorce. As people, man, specifically black men, like, our problem is we got poor decision making skills. We don't have commitment issues. We don't got none of that. We got poor decision making skills, and we got poor execution skills. Whether your pull-out game weak or you just didn't follow through with what you're supposed to follow through with. The issue is women have all the power. And I said this before to somebody, and it was like, nah, this and that and third. Listen, when I was at FAMU in the psychology department at a majors meeting, one of the doctors was like, listen, women, if you have a child, it's your fault. Here's the deal. As a man, you don't control anything about a woman's body at all, which is the reason why I'm pro-choice. You don't control anything. I don't care what you did, whether you jumped off the dresser, the ceiling fan, whatever, you shot the club up, fantastic, all well and fine. At the end of the day, it's the woman's decision whether what's going to happen after that part of it. Now, with that being said, I sound like Toya. With that being said, here's the deal. Whatever happens after that is her decision. So if she decides that, okay, I'm going to move forward, whatever come with that, that's on her. Like, you trying to make somebody do something that they don't want to do or whatever, like, you could cancel Christmas on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't make somebody do something that they don't want to do. We get 86 morals, we get 86 ethics, we get 86 all of that stuff. At the end of the day, she made the decision for you to decide how this thing is really finna play out. Now, here's the other part of it. When we start talking about the legal concept of it, listen, as a black man, don't you ever go to court without any legal representation. Don't you ever get into a situation without any representation. That's the biggest issue. We go into these systems and you already about 10 steps behind and you going in. Very few people can represent themselves inside the judicial system. Very few. And very few are effective. The other part of it is I've been in courtrooms, whether it's myself or I'm part of the profession or whatever, and we don't like Kent was saying, they don't even ask you no questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why it's important to have legal representation throughout the entire process, whatever you want to deal with it, whatever. When my dad found out I had my daughter, the first question my dad asked me was, did you get a DNA test? I'm like, dang, bro, that's deep, bro. Like, dang, he said, I don't care about none of that, you know. And to me, I'm like, that feels a little bit disrespectful, you know, like it's almost like you calling her out her name or something like that. My dad like, no, bro, you know, you need to establish this thing in the beginning. But at the same time, we feel some type of way about it. Like, I don't really necessarily support child support in terms of the system of it and systematically. Like, I just don't believe that system works at all, period, what it's designed for, because I've seen the disparity across the board, whether, like Kim say, paying $2,400 for 2 kids, my partner paying $700, somebody paying $1,000 for some triplets. Like, none of that stuff really adds up. What I do know is that when you can't come to an agreement, that's when the documents come in. They put like income calculators. They have a system and a formula for it. So at the end of the day, it ain't about how you feel about it. Now it's about the documents. And I go back to this idea of having representation. She could do whatever she want to do. Listen, you can hire your attorney, petition. Listen, get a subpoena or something to serve them to make sure that she provides these documents, tax documents, proof of income, all that stuff. I don't go by your word. Don't mean nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna leave. If you want to play ball like that, let's play ball like that. But the bread and butter of all of this is that women have more power than they think they have. And as a man, we forget that how much power they really truly have. And so we start positioning ourselves to where we don't have no leverage on nothing. You know what I'm saying? And it goes back to, like I said, this poor decision making of just agreeing to stuff because you feel bad about it or because you feel whatever, like, oh, the child need or whatever. I understand all of that. But at the end of the day, if you don't want something, don't do it. You know what I'm saying? If you don't want to get involved in it, don't do it. Like, I get it. Like, nobody has to be here and all that. But at the end of the day, somebody made the decision to move this thing forward. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be pro-life, not pro-life, whatever. But at the end of the day, a woman has control of her body, and she makes the decisions about how we're going to move forward with this thing. And at that point, you at the mercy. And so you're going to have to shell out a lot of money to get some legal representation to make sure that you get somewhat of a fair fight, because it ain't going to never be fair, but somewhat of a fair fight so that you can sustain yourself through however long this process is. That's my 2 cents. I just want to add that in there a little bit.
I agree with everything you said, bro. Like, I agree with everything you said. Like, there's, you know, you almost can't add nothing else to it except for, you know, people need to learn how to be fucking humans and understand that just because you're bitter at me, don't take it out on me for the sake of your child on a female's behalf. It's like, you should want this man to want to take care of his kid. And on the flip side, men out there need to look. This is her choice and all of that, but you stuck around. You chose to stick around, or you chose to go on that thing not souped up and wrapped up, like whatever it was. It takes 2 to tango, unless some unfortunate circumstance takes part. And you know, people need to learn how to be humans again. Talk about things but like your original thing with adoption and shit like that. Negro, if your ass didn't want no kids, you should have deuced out the moment she said we want to go and adopt something.
You know what's funny? Like, I like the way everybody it's easy for you to say, yeah, you should have stepped out and not do it, right?
If you ain't want it.
If you ain't want it. It sounds
What
logical.
happened in the military if a girl say no, even if she drunk? Y'all both can be drunk, but if she say no, what happened?
Come on.
Hey, ain't no come on.
No. We all know what it goes. If she says no, no is no, unless it means somehow. Unless she says stop, no, stop. That's different. But anyway, no, but like what I'm saying,
I want to hear Anthony's partake. What up, man? You muted, bro. All right.
Yeah. Man, pull out games week. I'm still trying to get over that. Hey, well, so when I went through my divorce with my ex-wife, I got divorced in Germany. So total different scheme. The way they do it is 10 times better than how it's done over here. And guys still get got. Over there, it's more so the judges will cater to how the law is written, but it depends upon your lawyer. If you got a crappy lawyer or you got a money hungry lawyer, I watched guys who the girls would go all to this one lawyer, and she was known for getting money from soldiers, from guys, and like JT said, we make some poor decisions, and the lawyers would. One of my buddies I know from Germany, he actually ended up owing 24,000 euro and back pay. But then he also had to pay for two kids, and he was paying in euros way more than US dollars. So he was paying a good amount of money monthly. For me, luckily, I had crossed my T's and dotted my I's to where I had only I think like 2,000 euro. Only because of what the law had said. And luckily I had a male judge. He told her, look, I see what you're doing. I'm letting you know today it stops. And that was the coolest thing I ever heard from a judge. It took 2 years for my divorce to go through. The German court system takes forever, man. But yeah, my experience from how some guys experience a divorce is totally different. So I can't even compare. But having to being married to a gold digger, person who's all about maintaining a certain lifestyle, wanting money, and seeing how the money that was going towards my kids, supposed to go towards my kids, was not going to my kids. It was more so feeding into her style of purses, shoes, belts, and all the stuff. So there's no system of control. That's my biggest issue when it comes. My first issue that comes to divorce court and having to pay child support, alimony, is there is no system of control. If you can guarantee me that the money I'm paying, and I was like you, paying over $2,000 some to mine included alimony and child support at the time, and there's no system of accountability of control. If that can be guaranteed, to make sure that there's the money goes to an account that only the mother can touch when the kid's there for stuff for the kids, then I have no problem with it. But when you have a system to where you're just sending money to this person, and with the German side of it, you're sending money directly into your spouse's account. So there's no system of the court involved with it. It doesn't get routed through them to her. It just goes directly to her. Some of the stories I've heard here in the States, man, I'm just like, couldn't do it. So I'm with you, Mark, when we talking about how jacked up the system is when it comes to men and going through divorce, especially when you have a woman who has already decided that she wants to use this as a way to get back at the guy who become accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And even then, divorce is already hard. So you might have a pre-plan to say, hey, we agree to do this and that. But then you have a lawyer who's going to speak stuff in her ear to say, no, you need to get him for what he's worth, get him where it hurts his pocket by using the kids. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people out here that do that. As we see and hear about it every day. It's sad when every state has their own different rule and law when it comes to divorce. There's no one set standard. And unfortunately, it is written to protect the woman, not the child, the woman. Because like you said, the first thing they'll say is they look at her. Regardless of what you say, I was the one who requested, who wanted a divorce, But it was funny how a lot of the questions were toward her. I'm like, I'm the one that wants the divorce. All right, cool. And seeing some of my buddies and some of the crap that people go through here, man. Like, man, I'm glad I got divorced overseas, but man, guys be getting robbed, and they don't care. They don't care how many bills you have. They don't care what you owe. As long as that money's going to the woman, that's all they really care about. If it makes you homeless, they don't care.
So it's so you did it in Germany, right? And then like as you obviously in America, there is no way to see. Can you ask to see how your money is being spent?
No, like I was just telling you.
No.
When I went there, I had a problem with the child support system because I was challenged that. I said, well, what are y'all doing to show, like, what do you guys, what does she have to prove?
Yeah.
To say this is what it costs to take care of my kids or where my money is actually working for my kids. Well, it's as simple as this. She just right on that little line. And again, not just woman bashing, whatever, but all you got right on a little line. Oh, my rent is X amount of this. And they come in there with a notarized seal saying this is my lease or whatever case may be. Or ain't no, bring in receipts, ma'am, to show that this is what all the kids' school supplies cost. This is what it costs to feed them. And nah, ain't none of that, bro. Ain't none of that.
See, this is where I have a question, right? So what you just said, this is how much her lease cost. So if we didn't have a kid, you would have still survived, right? What are you doing? What are you bringing to the table that makes it equal for me to pay $2,500 or $2,400?
Well, I want to know this. This goes back to what JT said. We made poor ass decisions because you should have been asking what the fuck you bring to the table from day one.
Bro, see, again, it's easy for us to see it. It's easy for us to see these assumptions. Like, it's easy for us to make those questions. Are you seriously going to tell me that you're going to ask these questions in the beginning? Most people don't.
You're right, because we make poor decisions.
Yes.
Go ahead.
But the thing is this, so a lot of times you got it where you marry a person who's already, they had a job, they had an education. And when you start throwing kids into the mix, you got it where us men will say, even if it's just us or us and the woman will say, hey, taking care of kids is a full-time job, which it is. And so a lot of times we'll come together and say, hey, I'd rather you take time to worry about the kids, especially if that's what you want to do, to make sure they're raised right. So you have that, and that's fine. That's okay, because kids are a full-time job. One freaking kid, let alone to have four. And you get the people that date and marry these women that have no ambition, that have no goals for themselves, except for themselves. So and their mindset is, I'm just going to be a full-time mom. I'm not working. I'm not doing anything. So that's two different situations right there, because you got the woman who's going to take advantage of that versus the woman who actually wants to sit there and raise her kids the right way. So, sometimes the issue is like COVID-19, perfect example right now. You got a man and a woman together, whether they're married, whether they're not married, COVID-19 hits, kids are out of school. So now one of the parents are going to be forced to be home. So that's another scenario you got to throw in there too. So it's sometimes not always the person who's just in it just to win it, because she's like, I'm set, I'm good, I'm pop all these kids. And
I got you on that. And I don't mean we can go case by case scenario, but the vast majority is if we made better decisions as for what we're talking about as black men and for black women, you would know what you're stepping into early on. Like I said earlier, you got people that are quick to fall in love at 16. You got what Kwame said earlier. You got I blame it on the Hennessy. You got all of this bullshit. It's like, okay, well, let's start from the early on decision from when you first decided to go spit your game at this lady. Okay, how about the fact that when you all first about to smash, the decision you could have made was to wrap it the fuck up. Or the decision you could have made was to not smash when she's fucking drunk. When she moaned, I want you to nut in me, nigga, maybe at that point you should have pulled the fuck out. So you got how many different variables that you just make some poor ass decisions. So now we'll say on the lines of you think you fall in love with somebody, and this is the case, like, and I use me, I'm prime example. When you don't know what love is and you just going along with your lifestyle, how you grew up, whatever, you find somebody that you think is genuine. Well, okay. The fact is once your ass is over 18, hopefully you make it that late in life. But once you're over 18, grown men make grown ass decisions. Grown women make grown ass decisions. So again, when you choose to lie down with this person and pursue a relationship with this person, and this person turns out to not be who you thought they were to be, you can't blame that person. It takes two to damn tango, whether kids involved or not involved. Look, I had a 7.5-year marriage. It took me 5 years after the 7.5 years of marriage to get goddamn divorced. But my decisions that I made in between, one child was a plan by her, so I could see and play victim all along. But the fact is like, okay, I got you, JT. You said it's her fault if she had a kid, because it's on her what she want to do, if she want to have that kid, or the whole pro-choice thing. And hold on, you 100% right on that. On the flip, not on the flip side, but to add more to it. When I decided that I didn't want to have another kid after having my son, and whether she wants to use that conversation in the name of love or in the name of whatever, as a grown-ass man, I could have said, even if this sacrifices my relationship, I don't want another kid, so I'm going to do everything on my behalf not to have this child. So the fact that she ended up pregnant after that means I made a grown-ass man decision to still go through some things, even though I said I didn't want X, Y, and Z. The proof was in the pudding. And now when you go to court, we can only hope that people go. I tell anybody that's going through family court all day long, and Rich, you hear me all day long, do not fucking lie, period. Even if it's not, because it's not going to bring you your side as a man, but even if you're a female friend of mine, I'm going to tell you straight up, do not lie when you go to court, because it's going to bite your ass later in life, straight up. And the fact is grown men and grown women make grown ass decisions. And when you throw yourself into the deep end of this pool, you can't be mad because you can't goddamn swim. Because both of y'all chose to do things that, all of a sudden now y'all are comfortable with it. But if it was a month and a half prior or a year and a half prior when y'all was still hugged up, lovey-dovey, this wouldn't have been no issue. You wasn't worried about child support. How many times these men hear in their ear, I'll never go after no man for no child support. I hold mine down. I don't need no man. What? And then these women hear in their ear, oh, no, girl, I'm about mine. Shit happens. I'm about taking care of mine. I'll do it. Both fucking sides is playing the fucking game. And neither side is helping the system benefit any goddamn thing for these kids. Period.
All right. Totally agree with you. There are a couple of things I want to honor before we kind of check out is salute to you all that even though you got divorced, you were married, right? We got to give credit where credit is due and honor this concept and this ideology of family, Black family particularly, but just family and really following through with that. Even though it didn't work, you made the decision to do it. You felt like it was the right thing to do, and you did everything that you're supposed to do, that you could do. Regardless of what the end result was, I gotta honor that and say, listen, I salute you for that part of it, because that's a big deal, right? The other part of this is there's no way to monitor money, whether it be child support or things like that. There's no way to really monitor that, because those of us that work a particular way understand that, like, you got cost reimbursement, like you can move money around. You know what I'm saying? You can write it the way you want to write it. You could do a lot of stuff. She can go out, or he can go out and spend his money and reimburse himself for what he spent, even though they didn't use that particular card, that particular cash. So once you start getting into that, the system is going, as Toy says, going to get a little murky and a little muddy because of how you're really trying to monitor the money and like how that really works. So it's a bit difficult to do that. My last thing is that we fail to really honor the life changes that women have, right? Postpartum is a real situation. And so women go through a lot of stuff emotionally as well, just as men do. But what we also understand, she may agree to something today and then disagree with something tomorrow. The bringing a child into this world causes a lot of emotional changes, life changes, and stuff like that. It is a real-time job. Being home with the kid, those of us that have kids understand that when they super young, fresh out the womb, you get very little sleep, and things get a little rough. As they get a little older, they get a little bit more self-sufficient. It's still a lot, and we don't really add in the emotional and mental capacity of it all. Like, how much does that weigh on you mentally? You still thinking about, are they safe? Are they okay? Do I have enough food? Do they got this? Do they got that? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Do my kids love me? like the emotional and mental side of it, we kind of really neglect. And I really believe that we neglect what women truly go through throughout the entire process. I'm not saying that, that's just 86 all of it and, they go through stuff and men don't and nothing like that. But we have to make sure that we honor every side of the coin throughout this entire process. And again, like I said, it goes back to decision making and execution. We got to make better decisions. And it's okay to disagree. It's okay to leave a situation that you don't want to really want to be in. It's okay to let people down and say, I'm gonna do what's best for me, whatever it really looks like for you. So that's all I wanted to add.
I think while I 100% agree with you, one thing I just want to add on what you said is the perspective of, which is a whole nother conversation in itself, but we're not gonna get into it, is men have a habit of not taking women's emotional mind state and all that stuff into consideration when it comes to postpartum and all that, because not an excuse because, but just a reason is we don't have time to worry about that shit ourselves. Because as a man, you are already naturally going to be torn down if you can't provide for your family. As a black man, you are already looked at as going to run out on your kids at some point in their life. As a black man, you are already going to look like, whether you love this woman to death, people are going to ask her if you verbally or physically abuse her and how much you make a year and why ain't she got this bag or why ain't your kids got these shoes or what. So those stressors make it easier for a man to ignore the fact that she's got stressors. And this is where that communication, that balance comes into place, is if you got that relationship where I'm talking that pure love, even if it ain't for each other, but that pure love for that child, it'll make my whole goddamn year if my ex ever told me, you know what, you a good ass fucking father. You never fucking made, like, we didn't make it work out, we didn't know, but you a good ass fucking father. Because sometimes, for men, not even sometimes, the lack of reassurance for a man is fucking horrible. And it could do so much to uplift men and make them want to do more, do better. How about double your goddamn child support if you can afford it? Because it's going to something worth going to. It ain't being taken in vain. And just a possibility, you'll have those men that are like that, all right, my ex is pretty cool. I'm out here doing this. And so on and so forth. But I think that's something as men, we lack in empathy and sympathy for those women that are going through those things because we don't have time to marinate on them ourselves. Because while postpartum is real for a woman, imagine that man when he does have to pick up that slack. And it's a child that maybe he didn't want, let alone it's a child that he does want, but he got to take that extra time off of work that he don't have already. But because she can't take care of that child. It goes both ways. It goes both ways. But I'm done talking. Go ahead, JT, LaToya, Annie, y'all close this out. Y'all got this.
So I'll start. I think that the most important thing that was said tonight is that we need to learn how to be humans again. We need to learn how to be decent people to each other. Whether I like you, don't like you, I'm in a relationship with you, not with you, I'm bitter, scorned, hurt, I still have to be decent towards you. Not just for the sake of our children, but for the sake of just being a decent person in general. So being decent and having that human decency is a great starting point for all of us.
I agree. Rich?
Yeah, I would say my takeaway is get stronger pull-out games. I feel like if that's not what you want, discipline yourself. The best thing that JT said is we need to be more cognitive about what we're doing and not just look at the moment, but look at the big picture. Even in the moment of high intimacy, understand that any slip up in that moment could mean a lifetime or whatever that case may be. You only know that girl for maybe a couple of hours or maybe a few weeks, but now you have this person with you for a lifetime and a lifetime of headaches or whatever the case may be. So just being better decision makers and looking at things for the bigger picture and not for the temporary, not for the now, because the now always gets us in trouble when we don't focus on where we're headed.
I agree with that. What up, Ant? Close us out.
So this conversation kind of reminded me of one of the poems I wrote. If I may, it's not finished yet. It's still a work in progress, but it's one of the ones. It just when being a man in today's society, being a black man in today's society, with all the crap we got to worry about, succeeding and being successful in this world is kind of hard. But I just want to read this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not done, but it's work in progress, open to interpretation, but without question. When does a man know that he has succeeded? Is it when his worth indicates he is needed? Is it when the weight on his shoulders has lifted? Or is it when the pain in his eyes have shifted? Does a man become the best when he has given his all, stopped himself from falling, standing up to end his painful crawl? Is a man forgiven for all his little sins? Look toward heaven, close his eyes, and prays to be forgiven. Man, it's like Latoya and them was saying, it's if we could come together after a painful breakup, regardless if you're married, regardless if you're in a dating type of environment, if we can just sit down and say, hey, this is what we need to do, not for us, but for the kids. At the end of the day, for me personally, I feel that regardless if you end in a painful way or end in a mutual agreement, you got to remember those kids, because kids don't forget anything. They hear and they see everything. And we all know divorce is horrible. That for me, all I care about when it comes to divorce is my kids. So as long as they're at the end of the day, as long as they're thriving, they know that the parents love them, and they don't see all the bickering, the back and forth that unfortunately happens due to divorce. Regardless, we all know the system's not meant for. We all know the system. We all know it's jacked up and needs improvement.
I appreciate y'all coming out again on another Tuesday. I hope y'all have a good night. Latoya, I can't wait to get the information about your stream, your cast coming on. JT, let me know if you get some that you get popping off. I want to hear some shit. I want to hear some stuff. Rich, go ahead.
Before you end it, or when you end the live, we want everybody to stay on. We have some questions to ask you.
Okay. Rich, whatever you got going on, I want to hear more about it, because I know you got a lot of good things coming up that you started up this year, and it's been impressive being able to watch it every step of the way. So I look forward to that. Anthony, we already talked, man. Like I can't wait to get going on that. But I'm gonna go ahead and end this thing. I do appreciate y'all's time, y'all Tuesday night, and everybody that may be watching. Y'all have a good week.